Kemi Badenoch, welcome to Talk. It's the first time I've been able to interview you. The race is underway. You and Robert Jenrick, the final two. You wrote in the Telegraph this week that you're the only one that can kind of unite the Tory party. You're the only one, the only candidate, and they must get it right. Is it now kind of the gloves are off for you and Robert Jenrick?
Well, the gloves have always been off for me, but that's because I've been tackling Labour most of the time. And that's what I mean. That I am the candidate who has been consistently showing the left for the frauds that they are. And we see it now with Keir Starmer in government. You look at the mess he's making of everything. He's only had 100 days, lost his chief of staff. He's got this freebie scandal that doesn't stop giving. We need to make sure that we turn ourselves around in time for the next election so that we can get them out. And that means renewal. And I am the bold choice. I am the conviction politician. I'm not making it up as I go along. I've been consistently showing who I am and what I'm about.
And you've said as well that they can't call you racist. That's why you're the best candidate for the job. Do you think they would try and do that?
Of course they will. They will, but it doesn't work. And I know this because we had this when the BLM protests were happening. We came under a lot of attacks. There was all sorts of pressure for us to do all sorts of things that were not conservative, decolonize this, decolonize that, and I resisted it. Some of them tried to portray me as a tool of the racists, but I know how to deal with that. I know how to bat it away because I believe in this country and I believe in equality under the law. None of this protected groups stuff. We have protected characteristics. You as a white man are as protected as me as a black woman, not a hierarchy of groups. And that's something that I always championed, getting this nonsense out of schools, getting it out of our public service. I did a lot. There's more that I would have liked to do. And if I'm leader of the opposition, I will expose Labour for being student politicians.
And if you are leader of the opposition, what would you do as your job? Because I was with a fairly senior Tory just the other day, and I actually said to him, what should I ask Kemi? And he said, ask her what she would do as leader of the opposition, because it feels at the moment that, you know, Reform are like the opposition, or we're the opposition sometimes, but the Conservative Party hasn't really been in opposition yet against Keir Starmer.
Oh, we are the opposition. But the Conservative Party is more than the MPs, and this is what my campaign is about, that we leave the centre-right to just, whoever is a Tory MP at that time. You look at what the left has. They've got an army. They've got the unions. They have loads of charities repeating their lines. They have, I tease them that the BBC is working for Labour. We need to get serious. As leader of the opposition, I will be rebuilding that coalition. Where is business? Business has stopped talking about conservative values. They just stay quiet. We need to get them out there. I have a lot of links to the business community, not just from my time as business secretary. They like what I've got to say. Being a leader of the opposition is about showing a vision and getting the army behind you that will help you win the next election. But that means being great at the dispatch box. People have seen me at the dispatch box. Look at what I've been doing with Angela Rayner, for example, showing that she doesn't understand what she's doing. Another student politician. I'm doing all that while fighting a leadership contest. And what I also want to make sure is that we build a great shadow cabinet team of people across the party, not just the ones who support me, but everybody, so that we have a consensus that can get us back into government.
And people say that you're quite a combative person, that you're quite difficult to get on with. It's kind of what they say, that you cross the street to cause a row. Is that true?
I'm a lovely person, Mike, as I'm sure you're finding. What I am is somebody who will not run away if a fight is brought. I defend our values. I fight for conservative values. And that's what you're going to need in a leader of the opposition. Not somebody who will keep quiet and be shy and just want to talk about something else because they're embarrassed. I do not run away from difficult situations. And that is why all of the people who worked with me are supporting me. The ministers who worked with me, if I was this terrible combative person who was always fighting, they wouldn't be supporting me now. They saw what I did as a Secretary of State. They liked what they saw. I was effective. Things were broken. I got them fixed. I have a strong record of delivery. Whether it's on Brexit, whether it's on equalities, whether it's on trade, on business, I got stuff done. And I didn't make a lot of noise about it, but people know that I will deliver, and I will do that if I'm leader of the opposition.
And if you're building a sort of coalition of the people that you want in the party, does that include Boris Johnson? Because he says he might want to come back.
Well, Boris is not an MP, and we need to work with who is there. I'm about the future, not the past. If there is an association that would like him to be their MP, I think that's fantastic. I didn't want him to leave Parliament. I think it's a shame that he did. But we can't keep talking about the past. The public want to know what the future is about. It's why my campaign is called Renewal 2030. We thought we were going to be in government all of this decade. We thought it would be the roaring 20s. And look where we are now, Labour in government. What are we going to do with the next decade? That's our next chance. So let's talk about the future. What will the country be like? And in order to do this in one term, we need to go bold. We've got one chance to get this right. None of this changing leader every 5 minutes like we're changing tissues because we don't like this person or that person. The public aren't interested, the members are fed up, and even the activists and donors will walk away if we get this wrong. And that's why I'm urging people to vote for me, because I am the bold choice. I'm the one who can turn this around.
And the voting is underway already, isn't it? How long before you get some kind of indication, if you do, of how it's going?
I don't think you ever do get an indication of the voting directly. We can do polls. The polls show that I have a lot of support. When I'm out in the hustings, I get a lot of love from the membership because they know that I care about them. I was a grassroots activist 20 years ago, so I've risen up through the party. I didn't come in from nowhere, but I was also not, a student politician either. I had a proper job. I'm an engineer, and that's why I have a different approach to politics than many other people. There's all sorts of shenanigans, all sorts of silly stuff. I think it's time to get serious. There are a lot of problems, not just in the country, but in the world. We need serious people, not just promise makers.
Because has this campaign that you've been fighting been a bit odd and a bit dirty at times? I mean, there's a piece in The Sun this morning about somebody supposedly going around pretending to be supportive of someone but actually working for somebody else, spreading rumours that one of the candidates, or the original 6, had a drug problem. Yep. I mean, was there a lot of that?
There has been a lot of that, and it has taken a lot of self-restraint to rise above it, because people know that I can deal with problems if they exist. They've seen that side of me, as you said, the combative side. But I'm not about attacking other Conservatives. I'm about defending Conservatives. So I don't care who is throwing mud out and people attacking me, or not doing this, not doing that, because they don't realise that I'm still carrying out my shadow housing secretary job. I'm still doing the COVID inquiry. I'm still doing the post office inquiry. I'm a mum with 3 kids. I'm talking to my kids' schools. There's a lot that I can do, and I can juggle it all. I'm not getting involved in the people who are playing silly politics. They got us into this mess. They started the psychodrama that the party members are sick of seeing. All of this petty squabbling, slandering other people, briefing. It has to end. I am a clean slate. I am the bold choice. I am not more of the same. I'm something different, and that is why I think people are excited.
So how do you leave all that behind, though? Because you're accused by people like Nadine Dorries of being in cahoots with Michael Gove and having been the chosen one by him, and Dougie Smith's behind everything. The plot continues. I mean, what do you make of all that? It's
whenever people can't understand why someone is able to do what they can't do, then they say, "Ooh, someone must be helping her. Someone must be writing her speeches." And they cook up stuff. My very first speech in Parliament, my maiden speech, won an award for Speech of the Year. I've been doing this for a very long time. I run my own campaign. The person who's my campaign director is one of my closest friends. He used to be an MP, Lee Rowley. Everybody can see who's running my campaign. But as I said, there are lots of people who spend more time attacking fellow Conservatives than taking their fight to our political opponents in the Labour Party, and we need to stop that. I will stop that. I've never been a blue on blue person. I will stop that by making sure that Parliament has good people in it, proper Conservatives, not just people who want to be MPs for the showbiz aspect of it. And my shadow cabinet will also have the people who are there on merit, not but just because they supported me or because they're my friends.
Is there a place for Robert Jenrick in there?
There's a place for all of the candidates. It might be a different job than the one that they want to do, but I think that we all need to pull together as a team now. It's time for us to pull together.
And I had him in the studio just the other day, and he was saying he was quite surprised that you weren't doing that many interviews. I mean, clearly you're doing one now, so that may not be a good question, but you haven't done a lot of interviews, and you've been accused of ducking some of them, like from Laura Kuenssberg, for example.
Well, I was on Laura Kuenssberg at conference, and she tried to get me to say some funny things, and I wasn't having any of it. I can do interviews very well, but I don't do interviews if I don't have something new to say. I'm not a rent-a-gob. I'm not going to be running around TV studios like a blue-ass fly saying, "Look at me, look at me." When I have something to say, I say it, and when I do, it cuts through. Less is more. People are not dying to hear from politicians over and over again. They want to see us doing our jobs. I am doing my job as Shadow Housing Secretary. I'm still fighting for this country every day, making sure that we take Labour to task. And that sometimes means that I can't be in the TV studios, but I'm here now.
And are there questions that you don't like to be asked, for example, like personal questions?
No. I mean, I may not answer questions if I think that they're inappropriate, but ask away.
Okay. Have you ever taken any illegal drugs?
Never.
So
Not once.
So that's pretty categorical.
Yes.
Is there anyone that you absolutely wouldn't have in the cabinet, shadow cabinet?
Yes, but I don't think it's fair to name them. I will know things about people, personal things, which, it's HR, it's work related. I don't think it's fair to say that on TV and attack others. As the Reaganite slogan of never attack a fellow Conservative for me is very important, and that's why I'm fighting a clean campaign, talking about what I want to do, my values, my principles, rather than talking about other candidates.
Well, the government are doing a pretty good job of speaking for themselves, aren't they? I mean, you don't really need to say much to criticise them.
When your enemy is making a mistake, sometimes it's best to not get involved.
Quite.
And I think that's what's been happening.
The other thing,
we have been highlighting quite a lot.
Yes, I mean, there's a lot to get at. Yeah. Robert Jenrick also said he was hoping to get a debate with you before the voting's over, sooner rather than later, I think he said. He was asking Tim Davie from the BBC. Have you had any sort of approaches from the BBC or anybody?
Yes, we have, but I find this very interesting. Right at the beginning of the campaign, all 6 candidates were made to agree with the party board that we would not get involved in debate organisation, that the party board would decide what we did, because this is an internal battle. So I'm sticking to that. I have told them that I'm happy to have a debate. They are working on it, but I'm not approaching the media and saying I want a debate, because I stick to my word. That's the promise that we made at the beginning. I don't think we should be changing things halfway through.
And have you been misquoted in some ways sometimes? Because I was reading the Telegraph piece this week, and in it, you said, if we have to get rid of the ECHR, we have to get rid of the ECHR.
Yeah.
But you've been accused of not wanting to get rid of the ECHR. So are those people wrong?
Yes, they are wrong. If we have to do it, we should. But it is not a silver bullet, and it's not even that radical. What we need to do on immigration has to be systemic. The system is broken in so many areas. Immigration is one of them. And I keep saying that if we left the ECHR today, we would not be deporting any more people, because the people who are responsible for it don't want to do this job. I've met many Home Office officials. They're lovely people. They want to look after refugees. They want to help asylum seekers, and that's great. Go and work in a charity that does that.
Yeah.
Leaving the ECHR means that they just find something else. That they just find something else to use as an excuse. We need to replace the people, get people who actually want to man borders. We need to look at numbers, but numbers alone won't matter. Culture matters. Who's coming into the country? There's no point having 10,000 net migration when 100,000 good people have left and 110,000 bad people have come in. That's still a problem, and you'll hit the net migration figures. I'm an engineer, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not just throwing out words. Lawyers are able to meet the letter of something and not the spirit. I know what people in this country want. They want to have control over their borders. They want people who come here to love this country, to contribute to it, to want it to succeed, not have their heads elsewhere. And that's what I'm about, a wholesale immigration policy.
People talk about parts of this country, and we all know where they are, which have become sort of almost monoculture, but not British monoculture. They've become either very Pakistani-based or very Hindu-based, perhaps, from India. Places like Leicester, where they have, fights in the street because of, religious and ethnic differences. I mean, that's kind of unbelievable that it's happening. What would you do to stop that from happening?
Well, I talk about focusing on being a multiracial society with a shared culture and identity, not multicultural. I grew up in a multicultural country. Everybody looked the same skin color, lots of different languages, lots of different customs and behaviors, and there was endless conflict. Diversity is something that can be a strength. It can also be a weakness. People talk about it as if it's peace or love. It is not a virtue in and of itself. You've got to work at it. You've got to work at integration. My preference is actually assimilation, and if people don't assimilate, they will integrate. If you start just with integration, sometimes people just decide that they will live in a place, but it's just their bodies that are there, their hearts and minds are elsewhere. And that's why we see lots of conflict that really doesn't belong on the streets of Britain. There are foreign conflicts being fought on the streets here. I don't want to see that. But as somebody who has an immigrant background myself, I am more confident talking about these things because I'm speaking from an understanding, and I know that it is harder for people to attack me because I'm speaking from personal experience as well. I know what other places are like. We have something amazing in the UK. We shouldn't just throw it away because we're afraid to say the truth. I'm here to speak the truth even if it is difficult.
And do you understand the reasoning why so many people were driven to violence, if you like, by those Southport killings of the 3 children? because there's been a lot of talk about far-right organisation and Telegram channels being used. I mean, we've learned this week that an awful lot of the interference on social media was actually coming from abroad.
Yes.
And yet Keir Starmer painted everybody as far-right. He locked people up for 9 years for things that normally people wouldn't even go to prison for. Yeah. And I know that, we always have to say, nobody condones the violence, but do you kind of feel like you can understand why people behaved like that?
We must never condone the violence, but it is quite obvious that something's going wrong. And when that's happening, the first thing to do is to provide reassurance that you understand the issue, rather than rushing to look for who to blame. And I think that that's where Keir Starmer got it wrong. People may have got the perpetrator's identity wrong, but the fact is, some kids are not here today who should be here. That is an unspeakable tragedy, and we need to be able to ensure that we treat everybody equally when they commit crimes. No two-tier responses where, oh, well, this group has done something wrong, so we need to treat them with kid gloves and so on. People can see that. The public can see when there is not unfairness. I'm not surprised that there's a lot of foreign agitation. As Trade Secretary, I saw it myself. There are many countries around the world who want to destabilize us, and we need to stop being naive and get our act together. We need to get serious.
And we were reading just today that it looks as though, first of all, we know that the Labour government have looked for deals to process illegal migrants and asylum seekers up into at least 2032, maybe 2036. Apparently they're now looking for more hotels to put people in. They said they were going to stop the hotels. They said they were going to move people out of those hotels. I mean, that's just going to create more misery and more conflict, isn't it?
It will. They should never have scrapped the Rwanda plan. They should have tried to make it work. They were too busy laughing rather than thinking about how to fix the issue. Labour had no plan. We were not ready for the election. They were not ready for government. They spent 14 years sitting around waiting for us to mess up. And hands up, yes, we did mess up. But now they're there and they're just working it out. They have no immigration plan. They've just started thinking about what they'll do with the NHS. They've launched a review. Why didn't they do that 5 years ago or 3 years ago? They have no plan. They are student politicians and they are being found out.
I'm going to ask you a couple of quick fire questions just so we can get through them. How are you going to vote on assisted dying?
Assisted dying is a very, very sensitive subject. Let's see what the bill is. I have been someone who, because of what I saw in my family, support the principle of assisted dying, but I do not trust the system to deliver it properly. I've been telling everyone the system is broken. If we can't get social care working properly, if we haven't been able to get the NHS properly reformed, how are we going to deal with assisted dying? I don't think this is something that we should rush through. And Keir Starmer, I hear, wants to rush this through Parliament, and that's something I'll be opposing. This needs to be very carefully thought through.
He seems to want to rush through some things in Parliament, and then other things he doesn't want to rush through, like, for example, the Chagos Islands, which he did without even any consultation with Parliament.
So you know what I said about them being student politicians? You can tell what it is that they want to rush through. Let's get rid of hereditary payers. Let's put VAT on private schools, class warfare. Decolonize the Chagos Islands, we'll do that quickly. This is all student stuff. It's all ideological old Labour. A lot of people who voted Labour thought they were getting Tony Blair's Labour, which was serious. I may have disagreed with it, but it was serious. They've got the kiddie stuff now. It is not serious at all.
I mean, they keep removing portraits. I mean, they've done...
Yes.
Margaret Thatcher, one of your heroes.
Yes, indeed.
Elizabeth
the First.
Elizabeth the First. I think Sir Walter Raleigh's gone. Yes. Gladstone's gone.
Yeah.
Seems remarkable. As a former Minister for Women and Equalities, do you believe in quotas? Would you have a cabinet that was 50-50? Men and women?
No,
or maybe
no, I don't believe in quotas. I do believe that we need to make sure that there is meritocracy. There are great women in Parliament. We need to make sure that they are in the shadow cabinet. There are others who may not want to serve or who still have some time before they come into the shadow cabinet. We need to make sure that we help everyone fulfill their potential. Quotas are doing it backwards. It's starting with the end, and then you don't make sure that you have the strength that you need. You are rushing people through. Quotas are not the Conservative way. Meritocracy is the Conservative way.
JK Rowling tweeted support for you in the past, particularly on gender issues. Would you give her a peerage?
I would. I don't know whether she would take it, but I certainly would give her a peerage. I managed to get Dr. Hilary Cass a peerage because I knew that she was somebody who would have a strong voice in Parliament. These women who have fought for so much need protection. They're attacked relentlessly by all sorts of oddballs and bad people, and I'm really pleased to see her taking up the peerage in the Lords.
She's been remarkable, hasn't she? Do we need a referendum on net zero?
I don't think we need a referendum on net zero. I think we need to get serious. We should never have rushed it through in a 90-minute debate. I spoke in that debate and I questioned what we were doing. I was one of only 2 people who did so. The other was, I think, Graham Stringer on the Labour side. This is what I mean by having a plan and thinking about the system. I'm an engineer. An engineer does not set a target and say, we're going to do this by this date, and then we'll figure out how. You look at the system, you look at what is possible, you create a plan. We need to look at what we're trying to solve. Climate change and a better environment. Let's talk about that rather than a target that may or may not actually fix the problem.
And what about this £22 billion black hole that Labour can't seem to identify, even though they keep saying it's there, because they're spending the equivalent amount, £22 billion, on climate change?
Yes, exactly. There is no 22 billion black hole. There is 22 billion of Labour's bad choices, and they're trying to pin it on us. Their strategy was to come in and just say, just blame the Tories, Tories, that's where all the problems have been. And the public aren't buying it. They know that there are problems all over the world. They've seen what's happening in other countries. They know that what is happening here is existential. We need to have a plan for Britain. They don't have a plan. They're just running around in circles like headless chickens, trying to blame us. And we need to make sure that we are an effective opposition, delivering the proper change that this country wants to see. And that is what my leadership will be about if I'm lucky enough to win this contest.
And Keir Starmer says he doesn't like to do Friday evenings. You've said you're not that great at mornings. Do we need to rethink the prime ministerial clock, or the political clock, if you like, because it's supposed to be more family friendly now. But it doesn't really seem to be.
I think that there is a sacrifice that will always be made about politicians. As much as I would love it, we cannot ask for family-friendly all the time. Once in a while, yes. During this leadership contest, for instance, in August, I took 10 days off to be with my children. I promised them that we would have a holiday, but that was the right time. Parliament was in recess, and that was what was right for my family. I would not do that at this point in time. You have to do the work hard, and then you can play hard when you're down tools. And I think that we need to stop talking about the Prime Minister having life more family friendly. We need to make life more family friendly for the people out there. That's what our job is.
Final question. Do you think Keir Starmer will make it 5 years?
I think so. I don't think that Labour would even know who to pick to replace him. They might be forced to. But I also think that the Labour Party has a lot of very, very unserious people who, if they even go anywhere near the cameras, things would unravel pretty quickly. So they know he's the best front that they have. This is still Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party, and that's what I plan to expose if I'm leader of the opposition. It was something that I did very well when Angela Rayner was at the dispatch box. I know their weaknesses, and I would be delighted if the party gave me the opportunity to expose that day after day, week after week, for the next 5 years.
Kemi Badenoch, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.